Greetings, and welcome to another episode of B-Movie Madness. I'm your host, the Movie Buffer. Today we're going to be taking a look at Frogs from 1972. This film is absolutely bonkers and is honestly just plain silly in a lot of parts. The movie also stars a very young Sam Elliot, who was only 28 at the time as a matter of fact, and is damn unrecognizable without his trademark mustache. As is often the case with a lot of bad B-movies, the cover/poster art for this film is extremely misleading. Here we see a frog with a human hand sticking out of its mouth, indicating that the frogs in this movie are going to be quite large, perhaps even gigantic mutants. And judging by the marketing for this movie, I would not blame you if you went into this film expecting giant man-eating frogs. Sadly, this movie is anything but that. I used to constantly see this movie in one of the $5 DVD bins at Walmart, and while I was slightly intrigued, I never ended up buying or even watching the movie up until now. And that was probably for the best. Released in 1972, Frogs is set in the Florida Everglades and centers around an absolutely despicable rich family. Despite its flaws and extremely misleading poster art, Frogs does feature quite a few underlying messages regarding pollution and environmentalism. The Crockett family, which we follow throughout the film, owns several factories around the area that are responsible for polluting the nearby rivers and swamps. The family members have come to their grandfather's mansion to celebrate their birthdays, when the island that they are on becomes completely infested by an army of frogs, along with a plethora of other animals including lizards, spiders, snakes, alligators, and even a butterfly somehow gets in on the action. The movie begins with our main hero drifting down a swamp in his canoe, doing a little nature documenting when we get our title card. And I'm just going to ignore the fact that about 90% of the, quote, frogs in this movie are actually toads. This is Pickett Smith, a nature photographer / ecologist played by a very young Sam Elliot. Amidst his photographing of Florida's various wildlife, he manages to snap a few photos of some of the trash and pollution that is plaguing the area. This moment of solitude and bliss, however, is interrupted by a couple of obnoxious kids on a speedboat. Meet Clint Crockett and his sister Karen. Clint, being the entitled douchebag that he is, manages to knock our friendly photographer right into the water. Karen convinces him to turn around and help the poor fellow. Here we get some exposition where we learn about the Crockett family, which owns their own mansion on a remote island in the Florida Everglades. Today is a very special day for them. Not only is it several of the family members' birthdays, but it also happens to be Independence Day, and the family has gathered here to celebrate both. Here we learn that the Crockett family is directly responsible for a lot of the pollution in these waters, as a result of their chemical factories. Here we meet Grandpa Jason, head of the family and owner of this island. Amidst all of this, we keep cutting to these random shots of toads hopping around, suggesting that this island has a serious toad infestation. That being said, the toads don't really seem to be bothering anybody at this point. They're kind of just in the background, hopping around and croaking. Our hero is sent out by Jason to go find Grover, their exterminator, who apparently never came back. They find him, apparently having been eaten by some snakes. But not frogs. Later that night, they find a snake hanging from one of the chandeliers in the dining room, and Grandpa Jason just casually pulls a pistol out of his pocket and shoots the damn thing while his family watches. Smith theorizes that Mother Nature is pissed and out for revenge due to all of the pollution that the family has caused with their factories. Naturally, everyone, including Jason, laughs and dismisses everything that Smith says. We cut to several close-up shots of some lizards just climbing around on some trees. I guess they're plotting their revenge. Oh, and of course some more toads. One of these sons, Michael, is sent out to go check on the phone lines. I guess because the toads cut the lines. He looks up into the sky and sees some birds flying above him and just randomly starts shooting at them. I'm not sure why, as these birds are clearly just minding their own business and pose no threat.
For whatever reason, he decides to pursue the birds on foot, which takes him deeper into the forest. As he's running, he accidentally shoots himself in the leg and is then attacked by an army of tarantulas, which, fun fact, are not even native to Florida. They proceed to bite him and paralyze him with their venom. Now, at first, I thought this was just supposed to be their weapon that they were using to wrap him up, but upon rewatching this scene again, it looks like just moss that is growing over him. So I guess now we have sentient plants that we can add to our list of killers. And looks like now we have some killer butterflies too.
Alright, so I'm just gonna come out and say it. Where the hell are the frogs in this movie?
Next up on the dumbass list, we have the other brother, Kenneth, who winds up in a greenhouse filled with geckos and monitor lizards. Luckily for the lizards, their job is made that much easier as they begin knocking over these jars full of poisonous gas. And I kinda love how the jars are just simply labeled poison. The place begins filling up with gas, and as Kenneth begins choking, he attempts to find the exit. And apparently the lizards closed the door and locked him in there also. Needless to say, he bites the dust. Next we have Iris here, who is out in the forest chasing butterflies when all of a sudden she comes across a rattlesnake.
And look, I totally get it, some people are not fond of snakes, but this reaction seems a little bit dramatic, especially for somebody that lives in Florida.
So she runs and winds up tripping and falling straight into a pond full of leeches. She manages to get most of them off, but is bitten by several snakes and eventually dies. Next we have Stu, who goes out looking for Iris, and after walking right past the gator that is standing right out in the open, finds her body. He is then attacked by a group of alligators and proceeds to wrestle with one of them. And judging by this footage here, he actually appears to be winning. But somehow he ends up becoming gator food, so I guess RIP to Stu. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Smith and the rest of the family try to convince Jason to leave the island and start coming up with a plan to do so. Jason, however, being the stubborn old fart that he is, refuses to go and insists that the family stay here. So they pretty much say to hell with him and end up leaving anyway. After taking Clint's boat to escape, they eventually come across a dock, along with some abandoned fishing gear and a bait shop. And uh-oh, it would appear that the toads and their murderous kin have already beaten them to the mainland. And I guess the lizards end up cutting the rope to Clint's boat. Clint dives into the water to get to his boat before it floats away, but is attacked by some water moccasins and killed. Only after he's been screaming in pain for about a solid minute does his wife decide to finally go help him. So she ends up getting stuck in some mud, and a giant-ass snapping turtle crawls up to her and immediately eats her ass. And no, not like that, you sickos. So, being that this turtle is not only quite massive, but also has a really gnarly looking beak on it, you'd probably expect this to be a rather brutal and gory death scene. But apparently fake blood and a few severed limbs was not in the budget, so we'll just have to settle for this. So, at this point, most of the side characters are pretty much dead, and we're left with Smith, his new lady, and the two grandkids. Oh, and Grandpa Jason, of course, who straight up tells them all to get the fuck out. So, Jason is left behind, and when I say that this movie is just plain silly in parts, this is the kind of shit that I'm referring to. So I guess the toads are becoming more intelligent or something, because first they prank call him on his phone. Oh, and are the toads in this movie about to finally do something actually? Well, sorta. They surround him and proceed to just stare at him while their annoying croaking fills the room. I guess old Grandpa Jason just can't take any more of this, because he collapses onto the floor and the toads just sort of cover his body and hop all over him. And apparently this killed him. So finally, I guess we get a death from our toads, but still no frogs. And holy shit, we finally get a shot of an actual frog in this movie. And I guess that's the end of the movie. Huh. So, there's a few choice words I could use to describe this film. One would be lame, lazy, corny. I mean, corny even for this genre. And I get that this is a low-budget film. It was made in the early 70s. You know, maybe they couldn't afford a whole lot of prosthetics, severed limbs, and gore, or whatever. But, you know what movie came out 3 years after this one? Jaws. And that movie managed to do it. Now, there is that possibility that yes, this may have been intentional. It could have been a stylistic choice to keep this movie, you know, relatively free of gore. After all, the film is rated PG. But, I don't know, I mean, at least give us something, you know? These attack scenes, these death scenes, definitely could have used a lot more energy to them. That being said, this movie is enjoyable in parts to a degree, due to its campiness and just how ridiculous the whole premise is. Not to mention, like I said, the very laughable death sequences that we get. So it is a good movie to, you know, get shit-faced to or whatever and just laugh at and make fun of with a bunch of friends. I will give it that much. One genuine compliment that I can actually give to this film is some of the cinematography. I think it is quite well done, especially for a film of this time. And I mean, there is some genuinely good shots of nature and some of the animals that are included in the film. So even despite its flaws, and there are plenty of them, there is some fun to be had with this film. I can also appreciate the fact that they used real live animals, even if these attack sequences are just silly as hell. Overall, Frogs is a bad and very lame movie. However, it does offer some unintentional laughs that bad movie lovers may enjoy. So, if watching this review tickled your fancy in any way, maybe consider giving this one a watch. Or, you know, maybe don't and just put on an actual good movie.
So what did you guys think of Frogs? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was it sort of a mixed bag for you? Drop a comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any more fun here on the Movie Buffer. And until next time, ciao for now.